Welcome to the Flip to Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Sean Terry. Hello again, this is Sean Terry from the Flip to Freedom podcast. We are on episode number 95. Now, if you're joining us for the first time, I'd like to welcome you and let you know that you are in the right space. If you just want to get started in real estate, you want to learn advanced techniques on how to wholesale houses and how to flip houses. Now, in this episode, we are going to talk about the 4 psychological triggers to get motivated sellers to practically give you their houses. We're going to talk about the 4 triggers, right, that will mesmerize your sellers. We're also going to talk about what you must have before you attempt to talk to any seller. We're going to talk about what to bring on the appointment that you go to, and you're going to learn a technique, okay, this technique that will separate you from the competition. Also, I'm going to talk about one simple strategy that you can start applying tomorrow that you will be able to get more deals on less leads. It's going to be a great episode. Now, like I said, if you're joining us for the first time, this podcast is about wholesaling. It's a segment of real estate investing where you will market for motivated sellers. You'll learn how to market for sellers, and then decipher who's motivated and who's not. And then what you do is you contract with the seller. You sign a contract with a seller, and that contract has a specific price. Let's call it $50,000, and a closing date. Let's call it 30 days from now, right? Now you have an equitable interest in that property. You have the right to market that property and try to find a buyer before your closing date. Then what you're going to do is you're going to now put it on Craigslist. You're going to talk to buyers, put it on your email list, talk to buyers down at the county auctions, at the real estate clubs, whatever the case may be, bandit signs. You're going to market the heck out of that property. And now let's say you have a buyer that comes along and says, hey, I'll buy the property for, say, $60,000, okay? You got a contract for $50,000, and now you got a contract for $60,000. Now, how much have you invested? I don't know, maybe some in mailing or whatever to find a seller, or maybe you're just driving for dollars. You're driving around trying to find sellers, or maybe you're doing some internet marketing, creating websites and stuff like that. But you don't have a lot. It's not like you're coming up with $50,000 cash, right? You don't have to come up with a $50,000 because you're just contracting it. So now you have a contract with a seller, you have a contract with a buyer, you bring that to a closing agent, attorney, escrow officer, whatever the case may be in your city or county, and you instruct them to do either an assignment where you sell your contract, or you do what's called a simultaneous close, or what's called a double escrow, and you do that, and what will happen? How does the money flow? The buyer, $60,000, will wire in, okay, $60,000 plus his closing cost, of which $10,000 will go to you, and $50,000 goes to the seller. So the seller gets their $50,000. They don't have to deal with a realtor. They don't have to deal with paying commissions and closing costs and fees and clean up the house and do all this junk that they normally have to go through a regular traditional sale, right? Especially if they're distressed and they want to get out now. They don't have to stick it on the market for 300 days. You get $10,000 and the buyer gets a property that's below market. So it's a win-win situation all the way around, and it's a phenomenal business. Now, in that particular example, if you do one deal, you're making $10,000 in that deal, okay? Now, if you do one a month, guess what? That's an extra $120,000 a year flipping houses around your job. Well, what would it take on your current job to get a $120,000 a year raise? I know some of you are laughing. You're going, what? Are you kidding me? That would take a lot, wouldn't it? Right. So what if you do 10 deals a month? Or, I mean, that's a little, okay. Let's say you do 2 deals a month. Well, what if you do 3 deals a month? What if you do 5 deals a month? I run a full-time operation here in Phoenix, and I flip anywhere from 10 to 20 houses a month or more. And it's a blast, and I love it. It's so much fun. I don't have to answer to a boss. I can come and go as I want. I go to the gym in the morning, go to yoga, whatever, go do that. It's a blast. I can do what I want when I want to do it. I'm telling you guys, the freedom is unbelievable, being able to do what you want when you want to do it. Now, there are specific techniques when it comes to talking to sellers, marketing for sellers, marketing for buyers, negotiating with buyers and sellers, and specific marketing plans and techniques. There's online marketing, there's offline marketing, there's working with bird dogs. There's a whole bunch of ways to be able to take this business from a hobby to a fortune. Okay. Now, in this episode, I told you we talked about different social triggers, I guess you could say, triggers that we could use to maximize profits. Okay. And you're going to learn a ton in this episode, because I'm just going to lay it on the line, and it's gonna, you're gonna, after this episode, you're gonna know exactly how, first off, you can double your amount of deals with the exact same amount of leads you're going to get. And also, you're going to go some specific tips when you're going in and talking to seller, because that is one key point. The seller calls in, you talk to him on the phone, and you now set the appointment, right? Now you want to go get that deal if you can. And there are things you can say and things you can do, questions you can ask to be able to make it happen. All right. Now, for me, if you want to learn more about Flip the Number 2 Freedom, that's my blog. And on there, if you go to flipthenumber2freedom.com, you can go there, and on the front page is a video of me, and there's a place where you can enter your email, and I will email you a book that I wrote. It's a 129-page book, and it basically lays down my entire $1 million a year business blueprint that you can follow in a step-by-step 19-week process, where you'll learn how to go out and have the ability to go out and quit your job if you want after 19 weeks flipping houses. Now, some of you may accelerate faster than that. I got a guy working here, and his name's Brian here in Phoenix, and he's made more money following my book, following the podcast, than he does in his current job by double, right? But he loves what he do. He loves his job, but he just does this on the side. He only works a couple hours a day and loves it. So the potential is definitely there. Now, before I get into the meaty content, I'd like to talk to or actually recognize a couple people who went into iTunes. I'm sitting here on my brand new iPhone 5. Man, that thing's awesome, huh? A little disappointed in the battery, but otherwise the thing is rocking. Anyways, first review came in October 9th from Vec242. Great podcast, 5 stars. Great podcast. Thank you for all the valuable insight. Awesome. Next one came in from Brian Elwood, September 27, 2012. 5 stars. Best real estate podcast, period. While Sean holds nothing back in this podcast, consider this your $5,000 education for free. He's inspirational, fun, and motivating, and walks you through the entire process over and over until there's nothing left to do but go out and do it. Of course, action. And when you actually put this information into action, it changes everything. There is something dynamic about doing something and moving, and motion creates emotion, right? So you can start going out there and start cranking and getting things done. Once you start creating the momentum in this business, man, it's phenomenal. It's amazing how fast it can grow. And another one came in from Mike24, says the best, 5 stars. Great job. So thank you guys for going into iTunes and submitting those reviews. I greatly appreciate it, and it definitely helps in the rankings. So I would appreciate you guys doing that. All right, now let's get into the juicy meat here. I got an announcement at the end of the podcast you got to listen for, because it's incredibly important. So stay tuned till the end, and I will talk to you about this special announcement. I got some killer things going on. All right, so now, the meat. Okay, what you must have, right, before you ever attempt to talk to a seller. Okay, what you must have. Now, tell you a story here in the next little segment here. I just came back, right, with Stan, who's my acquisition manager, runs all the acquisition side of my real estate business here, and went on an appointment with him with a multi-unit property. Sat down with the sellers, great mom and pop, sellers. Had a conversation with him, and now one of the biggest things, the number one thing you have to have going in, is a level of confidence, even if you don't have confidence. Okay. Now, I know when you first get started and you're kind of hearing the concept and you're a real estate, it's almost like riding a bike for the very first time. You're unconfident, you're unsure, you're afraid you're going to fall off. And when I was growing up, I was always the kid, right, that would stand in a social setting with a group of people standing around, and I was always just kind of listening in. I wasn't the life of the party at all. I'd be standing there kind of fumbling, and I'd try to interject and try to say something and try to contribute to the conversation, but I was always the one that was unconfident and unsure about myself, and I was kind of fearful, right? And what happens is that fear, right, comes inside us and it inhibits us from being the actual person that we know we can be. Now, what does that have to do with talking to sellers? When you're talking to sellers, right, they can sense fear, okay? They can sense two different things. They can sense fear, like you might not be knowing what you're doing, right? And they can sense whether you're broke. And I call it like the fear of the dog, right? So it's like, have you ever been close to a dog, man? If you portray fear at all, next thing you know, man, that dog's going to jump on you. So it's that fear of the dog where now a seller is like the dog. They can sense whether you're afraid or you don't know what you're doing, you're kind of stumbling, right? And also they can sense whether you are financial distress, meaning you're walking in there and you're going to say, okay, listen, what would you want to sell your house cash for to a cash buyer, right? And you are the cash buyer, or you have cash buyers behind you. And if you're portraying like you're broke, it's not going to work, right? Because success leaves clues. And it's funny because, if you walk into a seller and you're sitting down and you don't look like you can afford a $50,000, $60,000, $100,000, $2 million house, that they can sense that, right? So you've got to look the part to a certain point. Now, I wear flip-flop shorts and I don't wear a t-shirt, but I usually wear flip-flop shorts and I wear a golf shirt, but I look presentable and I'm confident when I walk in. I look them directly in the eye and I say what I mean. So the bottom line is that when it comes to confidence, everybody goes through it. The first time when I learned about the concept of wholesaling, or where you could contract a house and turn around and sell that contract, I went out and I was taught to find motivated sellers by knocking on pre-foreclosure doors. Well, what happened was the first door I went up and knocked on the door, right? And the big, huge guy that was bald, had hair, coming out of his wife beater, tank top. He was sweaty. It was in May in Phoenix, so it was like 80 to 100 degrees out. And he was standing there. He's like, "What do you want?" Right? And I remember going, his tongue all swelled up. I choked up because I couldn't get it out of my mouth. I felt like an idiot. And I think what happened was before I went in, I didn't give myself a pep talk, right? And everyone's done that, right? Where you're like, okay, I can do this, man. You're talking to yourself, giving yourself a pep talk. You're like hyping yourself up. It's almost like in the Jerry Maguire movie where Jerry Maguire is talking to Rod Tidwell there, and they're kind of walking through the hotel lobby when in draft night, and they get to that kind of little store they were in there, and they were talking, and Tom Cruise as Jerry Maguire stands behind him and he's talking in his ear and in Rod Tidwell's ear, and he's going, "You're the best receiver there is. You jump higher than anybody else. You get more yards than anybody else. You're faster than anybody else, and you score more touchdowns than anybody else." And Rod Tidwell's like, "Yeah, bring it on, man. That feels good. I'm getting hyped up here," right? And that's what happens. You almost got to talk to yourself going in, and the bottom line is you got to act as if. Two different things. Act as if you are confident. Act as if you are Donald Trump, right? What would Donald Trump do, right? Donald Trump would walk in there and he would walk in there and he would be confident. He would walk in there and go, oh gosh, golly gee, I don't know. Well, it looks like a nice house, but he would walk in there confident. Okay. And that's number one. Act as if, because here's the deal. The seller doesn't know you. You realize that, right? The seller doesn't know you're scared to death. The seller doesn't know you got your tail between your legs. The seller doesn't know that you're freaking out and you have to talk to yourself in the car to get pumped up so you can walk in there and portray confidence, right? The seller doesn't know that. So you can act any way you want. You can be anybody you want. And the number two thing is, how would you act if you had $500,000 cash in the bank right now? How would you act? Would you be stressed? Would you be nervous? Would you care if you got the deal or not? Right? You would be carefree, happy-go-lucky. You would be loose, right? And you'd be nonchalant. Hey, how's it going? Hey, good. Nice to meet you, right? So what would happen is that your attitude would completely change and you have the ability to act as if, which is great. All right. So now, act as if. Now, here's the deal, is that when we are talking to sellers and that we're initially going in and we're talking to sellers, right? There's a fear of making a mistake. Okay. We're afraid of a failure. We're afraid that what if I screw up? What if I say something wrong? Okay. What if I, what if I contract a house and I contract it for too much and I get screwed, right? And it's all these fears it's fear of humiliation. Fear of humiliation is probably one of the biggest fears that people have, other than obviously public speaking and death. And the reason why public speaking people have fear is because of fear of humiliation. So we're walking in and we're talking to a seller. We might not be confident in what we're doing, right? Because we're brand new at it, and we may just be getting by and we're broke, or we're just struggling or whatever. We never done this before, or maybe you have just a normal job. You make $50,000 to $100,000 a year, or whatever, and you're sitting there going, and you're afraid of looking stupid or being humiliated in front of the seller. Well, who cares? Who cares? Right? Want some wine with that cheese, as my father would say? Stop your whining. See, because here's the deal, is that when your why is bigger than your fear, then who cares? See, what does that mean? When your why, when you want it so bad that you don't care what the fear is, then there is no fear. Do you follow me? So for me, I was in such a bad situation financially. Life sucked. I hated what I was doing. I couldn't sleep at night. I was just dis-easy about where I was, and I was so sick of being where I was that I wanted out. My why was bigger than my fear. That's why when I went up and knocked on that door, I remember, man, I had to pump myself up in the car. I had Think and Grow Rich playing. I said, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And I walked in and I knocked on the door and I made sound like an idiot. I was like, I tripped over myself, right? But I walked back in the car and I remember thinking, there's no way I can do this. And then I flashed back and I'm like, you know what? What am I going to do? Go back to my miserable job? What am I going to do? Go back to... No, I got to figure it out. And that's where my why overcame my fear. And guess what happened? My attitude shifted just like that. And I'm like, you know what? Bring it on. Bring it on. I don't care if I have to knock on 1,000 doors before I get a deal. I don't care if my knuckles are bloody. I don't care what it takes. I am going to make it happen. I don't care. I'm going to find a way to push through the pain, push through the obstacles, push through the barriers, and I'm going to make it happen. And I did. And I found my first deal within the first 3 weeks, and I made $11,008. And that, my friends, changed my life. And from that point, it's just been unbelievable. But the bottom line is this, is that there is no failure. Remember that. There is no failure. There's just feedback. So what happens? There is no failure. There's just feedback. So you go do something, you go meet a seller at a house, and it doesn't go well, right? First off, you'll probably never see him again. And second off, now you have feedback. What happened? You assess the situation. You've got over that first hump. You went over and you talked to the seller. I know you're afraid, but you went through it and you overcame that obstacle. Listen, if anyone's told you that getting rich is easy, they're lying. It's not easy, right? It takes work, it takes effort, it takes energy. But because it takes work, because it takes effort, because it takes energy, because it takes overcoming that fear, it's worth it. It's 1,000 times worth it to be able to accomplish something. It's not an accomplishment if you have to push a button, right? Push button millions. Push this button, you make millions of dollars. Okay, what's the effort in that? You know, and everybody wants a push button this, push button that. And they jump from thing to thing to thing to thing, and all these different things, all these shiny objects or whatever. All of a sudden, but the bottom line is that if it doesn't take, it takes effort and energy to go out and get the results you want. Okay, so there is no failure. There is only feedback, just feedback. So you take that feedback and you learn and how to go out and get better. All right, so now what to bring on the appointment. So now you got the seller calling in, you talk to them, you booked an appointment, right? You got your attitude. You're all, okay, I'm ready, right? You got your head on straight. I got $500,000 in the bank. I'm confident. I can walk in there and do it. What do you bring on the appointment? You got to bring 2 pre-filled out contracts, okay? Pre-filled out. Not with the price, but pre-filled out with everything else, right? So you don't have to fumble and write over it and kind of trip over yourself. All you got to do is put in the price and sign it, and it's done. Okay, so 2 pre-filled out, one for them, one for you. A letter of authorization. Letter of authorization, if they have a loan on the property, you want a letter of authorization, and that letter of authorization will allow you or the title company to talk to the bank to pull the payoff. Okay, now here you're looking for the lowest of the low comparable properties, either active or sold, in a 1 to 3 mile radius. Okay, so you want to have the lowest of the low comps. In this, you're going to have in your manila folder, and you're going to have it as a backup. Okay, you're not going to use it immediately, but you're going to have it as the backup. So what you're going to do here is you're going to also have these comps and get 2 or 3 or 4 different comps, something that are similar, comparable. Maybe it looks like the house or whatever. Maybe you went on Google Maps and you looked at it and say, this house, it looked kind of similar. Okay, so that is the price. That is potentially a retail price for that as-is property. Okay, now typically what I've found in markets is that price, the lowest of the low comps, are what bank-owned comps are going for, and then fixed-up comps are going for much higher. So if you can purchase at the lowest of the low comps and then back out what regular realtor commissions is 6%, closing costs of say 2%, fees and say a 5%, profit in there or whatever, which is reasonable. The bottom line is that if you back out those numbers, you're going to get down to a wholesale price, and you can sell it at or below the lowest of the low comps, because those are typically cash sales, right? And you can still justify as a low price, as being the low price property, and be able to build in a substantial profit. Now, like I said, you only use that only if they don't give you a number, okay? You want to get a number out of the seller first, okay? So what are you going to have? You're going to have the lowest comps, and you're also going to have inside your manila folder a number of the highest price that will make sense for you. Okay, so what you do is you pull all the lowest of the low comps, right? And you look at it, and you look and saying, hey, if I'm going to put out this particular property out to the marketplace today, that means I could sell it for X. Okay. Let's say all the comps are for 50,000, 60,000, 55,000, 52,000, whatever. And you're saying, hey, if I can sell mine at say 48 or 49,000 and all these 50, 52,000, those numbers right there, those are all the cash sales that are going on because those are the lowest of the low comps. Well, if I can sell mine for 49, I can justify this, the lowest price comparable property that they could purchase, a buyer could purchase in the neighborhood. I should be able to sell that sucker quickly. Now what you do is back out your profit. See, instead of making 5,000, right? Why not make 10,000? So back out 10,000. So if you're at 49, well, guess what? You're going to be at 39. So you want to start in the 35, 36 range to get up to the 39 range of your offer. So you put in there that the max you want to do is 39. Okay. And you write that on the inside of your folder. Now, if you write that on the inside of your folder, then that is your reference point, because what happens is once you get into a negotiation with a seller and you're talking to a seller, right? What's going to happen is you're going to get, they're a nice person. You're going to get emotionally tied. And if you don't have your number, then you can't push and negotiate to get to that number. Okay. Because you are walking in laser focused, knowing exactly where you need to be to make your numbers work. Now, them on the other side, they're going, hey, I would like to get. You're going, I need to be here. And they're going, hey, I'd like to get that. So what happens is you want to negotiate and be very clear to yourself exactly where you need to be. Okay. Now, let's talk about this one simple technique, once learned, right? You can separate yourself from all of the competition. Okay. Separate yourself from all the competition. And it's funny because I told you went on this appointment today, and I was with Stan, acquisition manager. And after we were done, we're saying, hey, how do you teach what we've just done? Talking to the seller. And he says, and here's the thing. When you're talking to a seller, there's two types of money. There's money now and there's money future. So there's future money and there's money now. One type of investor A, will go in, he'll talk to the seller, right? He'll sit down, talk to the seller, present their justifying number, their justifying comps. Here's my number. Here's where I'm going to be. And they'll be in and out of the appointment within 25 to 30 minutes, and they're out of there and they're gone, right? So they just came in it's almost like a guy selling windows, or a guy selling, pools or whatever, right? You go in there, you're sitting down, here's a design, here's what it is, here's my price. All right, hey, thanks, thanks for coming over, thanks for the information, take care. Done, out the door. So what happens is there's now money. There will be deals that you're going to get right now. You're going to get a motivated sellers. They need to sell, and they need to sell quickly. They want out, and they want out right now, and they want out quickly, and you can get that property under contract right now. Then there's future money, meaning that if you go into the appointment with the intent to add value to the situation in any way possible, then what will happen is you are building your future bank. So let me give you an example. The people that we met with today, they're not distressed, meaning they're not, they don't have to sell because they're losing their house, or they're in a divorce situation, or they're financially distressed. They don't have to sell. They've got other real estate needs. They don't have to sell. And when we sat down and talked to them, I knew they weren't ready to sell, and I knew they wanted a higher number than we were willing to be at right there. But we took the time to sit down with them and do what 99.9% of the other investors won't do. And we built a rapport with them like no one else has. Okay. Now, what has that done? This person is a seller. And they're a seller not now at a price, but they will be a seller in the future. So between now and the point that they make a decision to sell, something might happen in their life. He might get a heart attack. She might get sick. Things financially might change. Things might happen in the economy. There might something happen into the election, and boom, their kids, something might happen. They have to go pay kids through college and they need the financing. Things will happen. Priorities will change. And guess who's going to be there? Because guess what? We're going to put a drip campaign in, and we're going to send them letters, and we're going to send them phone calls, and we're going to send them Christmas cards. And what happens, they're going to hear from us. And when they are ready to sell, whether it be a month from now, 2 months from now, 6 months from now, we will be there, and we will be the call that they will make, because they have built a rapport with somebody that is sincerely interested in them and their success, and they're going out, and we will come to a number, and we will get that deal, and we'll get the deal closed. So it's a mentality going in that there's now money that will come your way, and it will come your way a lot. And then there's future money. And see, what happens is the majority of the investors only think of now money. They don't think of future money. They don't think of adding value, building rapport, and really, truly, honestly. I mean, I told these people, I said, listen, now's not a time to sell. If you have to sell now, I get it. We can work out a number. But I'm telling you right now is not the time to sell. From a seller's standpoint, it's not the time to sell. From a buyer's, it's a buyer's market, right? But it's not a seller's market. So it would be best if they were my grandparents, right? Or my parents, I would tell my parents to hang on, right? Hang on till the market gets better if you can. Now, just because I did that, and I didn't come in there and try to steal the property from them, right? But I came in there and I offered a price. Now, the amazing thing is that I offered them a very low price, right? And and I did it with a smile, and they were happy. They were like, and we walked out best friends. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about building rapport. Building rapport is probably one of the most overlooked skills, and one of the most productive skills that you could learn as a person negotiating with sellers. Okay. So what is that? It's being a chameleon. Now, a chameleon will adapt and change to his environment. So picture yourself with the big eyes bobbing all around, right? And you're sitting on a branch, and the branch is green, and all of a sudden, boom, you're green, right? Now you turn around, you walk over on a leaf, and the leaf is brown. Oh my gosh, your eyes are all popping around, and bam, guess what? Now you're brown. That's what you want to do. You want to mimic, right? You want to mimic. So here are some 5 basic ways that you can build rapport. And first off is what I do is I assume I already have rapport. Now remember, $500,000 in the bank. You're confident. You're loose. How's it going? What's up? I'm not. Hi there, Mr. Seller. I'm here to come, evaluate your house, just make you an offer. You're loose, right? You got $500,000. You're just having fun. Hey, just got off the golf course. How's it going? Hey, I thought I'd come by your house and check it out, right? So 5 ways to build rapport. Number 1, assume you already have rapport. Treat them like your best friend or neighbor, right? How's it going? I just smack people on the arms, right? Hey, how's it going, Bob? What's up? And it's amazing. And I just assume I have rapport. Like I treat them like I've known them forever. Okay. Mimic tonality. Now, if the guy's from New York, then talk to him like you're from New York. But if they're very soft-spoken and they talk slowly and eloquently, then you don't talk like you're from New York. You know what I'm saying? No, you don't do that. You mimic their tonality and how they speak, and they mimic their body language, their speaking rate. Because guess what? People like themselves. You know that, right? See the guy looking in the mirror going, hey, he's stroking his eyebrows, putting his hand through his hair. Yeah, I'm a good looking dude, right? See, people like themselves, right? So if he likes themselves, if you mimic tonality, tone of voice, the way they speak, body language, guess what? The whole mission behind rapport is to get them to like and trust you as fast as humanly possible. That is the whole mission, the entire mission behind building rapport. Now, the fifth one is listen intently and repeat what they are saying on the important statements. So listen to what they're listen intently. And then if you listen to them and then you repeat back kind of what they're saying, like for an example, I was in this house today talking to these sellers, and within the first 10 minutes, I knew that they had a younger son, right? They had two older daughters. One lived in Illinois. One was here in Phoenix. The older one in Illinois had 3 boys. One of the boys was in the Marine Corps, right? Which, bam, we had a relation there because I was in the Marine Corps too. So we started talking all about the Marine Corps. Tom, the owner, he was in the Air Force, talked about his Air Force days, right? And then their younger daughter had 3 kids, little boys. They were talking about the little boys and what they were doing. So all this within 10 minutes of walking in the house, right, and talking to them. And next thing you know, we're talking about this, we're talking about that. Then we got, because last night Ryan and Biden actually did the debate. So we were talking about the debate, and that got heated. And so we were talking about, so all this stuff we were talking about prior to even talking about the house and the property and what they need and the money they're looking to get and this, that, and the other. So the bottom line is that building a rapport is essential, absolutely essential to separating yourself from everybody else. Now, because I had a level of trust and I had a level of rapport already built with them, then when I came out and justified my low number, well, guess what happened? It was completely understandable. And here's how I framed it, if you could say. First off is I had my 3 lowest of the low comps, right? Now, we try to get out a number out of them. I'm always trying to get a number out of the seller when I'm walking the house and talking to them. So what are you looking to get for this thing? Oh man, what are you looking to get for this house again? And I'm asking that question, and we're kind of, you told me, but what was the number you were looking at? I can't remember. I didn't write it down. What were you looking to get again for it? And assume that they've already told you, right? And what happens is you're trying to extract a number. So you're sitting down and say, listen, if it was a perfect world, Mr. Seller, what do you need to get for this thing? What do you need to have for this thing? And you're just talking to them, and you're trying to extract the number out of them. Okay, so you can negotiate from there. Now, you'll be amazed that some sellers will say a lower number than the number that you have written in your manila folder. You'll be in shock. I've had my number in my manila folder at $39,000, and the seller goes, man, if I can get $22,000 for this sucker, I'd be happy as a lark. Boom! 22? Is that the best you can do? And guess what? I get it for 20, right? So I'm better off than I did. So if you can get a number, great. If you can't, like the people I was talking to today, they know. Most people know that whoever comes out with the first number loses. So if you are going to come out with your first number, it has to be super low, but you have to justify it and you have to do it with a smile. So how I framed it was this. I said, listen, Mr. Seller, the way we value properties is by looking at a moment in time over the past 90 to 120 days. And we take properties that are like properties that are similar size, similar units. In this case, it was multifamily, similar cash flow situations. We take similar properties and we look at those properties that have sold in the last 90 to 120 days. And that is our picture in time of what a value of your property is. Now, taking that into consideration, remember I got my lowest of the low comps, here is what is selling in this market, right? Now, you might have a diamond, but if it's surrounded by coals, It's going to be called a coal, unfortunately. That's the way this market is. So what happens is you have all these properties here, and this is determining value of yours. And I know you put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears out. I know you built the thing yourself, and I know you did all this, but the bottom line is it is what it is in this moment in time. Now, will this moment in time change in a year from now? Yes, because there's going to be a different 3-month or 6-month window. So the moment in time will definitely change, but here's the question. Will it go up or will it go down? That's what we don't know. With the trending in the marketplace, it could very well go down. You understand that, Mr. Seller? So we could do a snapshot 6 months from now, a year from now, and those numbers could be dramatically different and they could go down. Now, based upon what is going on in the market right now, in the past here, 30, 60, 90 days of these, 90 to 120 days, based upon what's going on with these properties that have sold, these properties, now the seller had to pay real estate commissions of upwards 6 to 10% on some commercial properties. They had to pay closing costs of anywhere from 2 to 3%. They had to pay, any type of fix up that was done to the property and type of inspections or whatever, most of the offers come in 90 to 95% below the original listing price. So Mr. Seller, it looks like here, it puts a value of this property at roughly $400,000. So if you got $400,000 and we back out, say 10 to 15% right off the top, well, guess what? We're talking about $40,000 to $50,000 off the top. It's going to be our number around $350,000. So that's where we're at with this. About $350,000 is what we can do to make this work, and it's fair offer based upon what we're having. Because if you were going to list it today, you could list it for around these numbers, and by the time you back out all the fees, that's going to be your net cash. What we're giving you is a net number that you can take to the bank. But here's the deal. You don't have to have people traipsing through it. You don't have to put a sign in the yard. It's going to just, disrupt all the tenants. And you don't have to wait on the market for 3, 6, 9 months for the thing to sell. It's something that can be done here in the next 45 to 60 days. So when you're talking to the seller like that, what's going to happen is that's how you justify a fairly low number. Now, what happens is the seller will reciprocate with their number like he did. He reciprocated. He wanted $750. Initially, when we watched, so he wanted $750, right? Well, obviously $750 is too high. I'm fine with $350. Well, walking out, right, we got him down to $600. $750 to $600, and that number could go lower from there. So did we get the deal right there on the spot? No. But did we build future value, future potential profits? Yes, because we will continue to talk to the seller and work with that seller and drip campaign to the seller. And when that seller is ready to sell, we will be there. Okay. So now let's talk about the psychological. Well, first off, before we get into that, I want to tell you right now one specific technique that you can use in your business tomorrow that will allow you to get more contracts for the less amount of leads, okay? Break out your pen, notepad, and I want you to turn up the volume, whatever, listen to it. Here's the deal. Most investors, right? And I really started trying to think, what do I do different to get so many deals than other people? Most investors will talk to a seller. A seller calls in. They're going to talk to a seller, right? And they're going to do a soft pass like I teach, right? Do a soft pass. So they're going to call in. They're going to say, hey, listen, if we could put something together, how quick would you like to sell? And they're going to say, oh my gosh, I'd like to sell quickly. Say, great. It looks like the comps are going from $50,000 to $60,000. Unless your house is exceptionally well and has granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, whatever, it looks like we're going to be in that range. Does that number work for you? If it does, I'd like to come in and sit down and meet with you. So you're testing motivation, right? And you give them a low ball or give them a soft pass on some of the lower comps that's going on in the neighborhood, right? And if they bite, they're either going to say, no way, there's no way I'm going to sell for that. Or what's going to happen is they're going to say, maybe I consider it. And if they consider it, then obviously you go on the appointment. But here's what you do, right? You do that, right? And that's what I do. But the next step that I haven't ever talked about before is that you submit a contract on every single one of those leads. And it's easy. You can have just a simple formatted contract. You can do it in FreedomSoft or whatever. And you actually submit a contract to every person that you talk to. And you really look at your number and you actually submit a contract. So what you're talking to them, say, listen, Mr. Seller, I know this, is like a rough number and stuff, but I'm going to do some more research on this. Do you have a fax number or an email address and I can submit you an offer? Because I'm going to really dig down on this. I'm going to put my sharpen up my pencil. I'm going to try to get the best number I can. Is there a fax number or an email address that I can send you an offer? And they're going to say, well, yeah, sure, go ahead. And you're going to get their number. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take that from a conversation that you're having with them, a conversation to a serious event, meaning you're now in a conversation. You're just talking. You're just talking. You're talking to them, and you're saying, "Oh yeah, we're just saying we'd like to give this, and we possibly give between $40,000 and $50,000 for the property or whatever." Right now, you're taking it from a conversation to a serious event. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to actually write up a contract and send them a contract. Make sure your contract are odd numbers: 41,000, 42,600, 42,1,000, whatever. It's just a rule of thumb. Just don't get 40,000. So you're going to give them a contract with an expiration date. That expiration date is going to be in, give them 7 days at 5 p.m. from the date that the contract is submitted. And what you're going to do is you get their email, send them an email over, tell them there's an expiration on the contract. You have offers on several other properties, but you only can buy one property, scarcity. You only can buy one property. And then what happens, right, is that now they're going to get that contract, and now they're going to sit down and talk to their wife. They're going to sit down and talk to their partner. They're going to print that thing off, and now they have a bird in a hand, right? Before they had no bird. They had nothing. They just had conversation. Now they have a bird in a hand. Remember the bird in the hand, two in the bush, right? Now they have that bird in the hand, and now it's a lot different conversation because you put your offer in writing, and 99% of the other investors will not take the conversation to a serious event because they don't want to spend the time writing an offer. Do you know how many contracts we sent out? Just send out. Okay, send it out. Deadline, we only can buy one, and have them come back. Here they go. We just start getting fax contracts in from people. Submitting contract is a very powerful thing that you can do right now, getting the same amount of leads, talking to the same amount of sellers, but increasing your deal ratio dramatically because now you're turning that conversation into a serious event. All right. Now let's talk about the 4 psychological triggers to get motivated sellers to practically give you their houses. First off is this, okay? When you walk in and you're talking, and you walk in initially, when you meet the seller, shake their hand. Now, when you shake their handshake is giving you a tell of what type of person they are. And this is hard to explain on a podcast, right? But follow me on this. Is that poker has tells. Have you ever played, poker? You played Texas Hold'em or something like that. There are what's called poker tells, meaning that if a person pushes in all their chips and they lean back in their chair, right? And they're saying, pushing all their chips and they lean back in their chair, they're telegraphing that they don't want you to think that they have potential strength. So in that case, fold, right? So now if a person pushes all their chips in and they're trying to act tough and they start talking, well, in that case, they're bluffing, right? That's a poker tell. So then what you do is you'd go all in, right? And overtop them or whatever, or, come over the top of them with a higher bet. So the bottom line is that just like in poker tells, there's tells when you're dealing with a motivated seller. One of the first tells is a handshake. Now, a handshake is you reach out, you take their hand. Now, if they take your hand, they squeeze it tightly and they turn it over. They grab on and they turn it over, right? So they turn their fist, they turn their palm toward the ground with your fist in your hand, with your hand, in your handshake, and they turn it over. That is an aggressive personality type, and that personality type likes to control situations and likes to believe they're right. Okay? That information in negotiating is priceless. Okay? So, what do? How do you negotiate with that? Okay, first off, I want to tell you something. Let me just back up here. Don't use this for bad, please. Okay, use this for good. Okay, because remember, you're trying to add value to every situation you're in. Okay, don't go in there, and because the next sign I'm going to tell you is similar with a handshake. But the bottom line is this: is that don't use this for bad, please. Okay, because it'll come back to you tenfold, and you're going to suffer. All right, so now, what's going to happen is the hand's going to turn over. So how do you negotiate with someone that comes in with an aggressive handshake and turns your hand over? Okay. What you do is you build them up. You puff up their ego, right? Tell them they're great. Tell them they're awesome, right? And this is in life in general. It's amazing. When you start walking around right now, start shaking people's hands and see how they react. Do they turn your hand over? And when that type of person in your mind think, okay, for me to be able to, and I don't want to use the word manipulate, I want to use the word negotiate, right? For the benefit of both interests in a win-win situation, that you can now basically stroke their ego. Okay, so you can puff them up, tell them how, oh, wow, my gosh, this place is incredible. Did you build this yourself? Wow, you did a phenomenal job, man. This is incredible. Holy cow, did you take carpentry classes or something? Man, this place is unbelievable. Look at the deck. It's amazing, right? Or talk about the hobby that they have, or they take you out in the garage and they have this super like revved up car with the engine sticking out, and this Camaro, and you're going, whoa, is that your Camaro? Holy cow. That is ridiculous. That's an incredible car. How'd you get, and show interest and stroke their ego. And what that does is that it gets them to like you and trust you. And then it's almost when you're presenting the ideas, right? And we'll get into another section of that when it comes to finding what they want and giving them what they want and having them believe that they came up with the idea. Okay. So now that's number one. Number two, you're shaking someone's hand and it feels like a dead fish. There feels like there's like no life to it, right? They're not shaking hard. They're not shaking a light. Have you ever said someone stakes out their hand? It's funny because I was at the live event in Dallas, and I shake hands and I'm knowing exactly what type of personality they are when I shake their hand. So I'm shaking everybody's hand in the event and I'm knowing what personality type they are, what type of person they are, stuff like that, just by how they make eye contact, how they, shake the hands and turn over their hands. And some people it's shaking like a dead fish. So if you have someone that shakes with no oomph, no personality, it's like a dead fish and they just, kind of there, right? And it's kind of hanging off the end of their limb, right? That type of person, right? You can tell them what to do. You control the situation. You tell them exactly what's going to happen, and here's what's going to happen, and here's how it's going to work. So what you do in negotiating with someone with a dead fish handshake, right? When you're talking and negotiating with them, say, hey, listen, you can walk the house. Hey, listen, here's the comps, or here's what I can do. Here's what I can pay for the property. And here's the contract. Just put your name right there. Just fill out the right there. Put the address in there. Now, would you like your check, either check, or would you like to have a wire? If you like a wire, okay, you're gonna like a wire. Okay, great. Just put your name here. Put here. Say great. Okay. And basically, what you're doing is you're commanding the situation and you're telling them what to do. Okay, that's how you handle that personality type, and it's all derived from a handshake. Now, you're going to be amazed when you start doing this and start using this, because the results, you're going to go, whoa. I've never talked about this before. but in any of the 100 hours of podcast episodes. But if you use this, it's a very strong technique, but used with caution. Okay. Now, the next thing is this, is that you want to ask this question. What do you plan on doing with the proceeds of the sale? Now, remember, you're walking around with the seller, you're talking to them. What's the price again? You're working on trying to get a price, but you know their handshake going in, so you know how to treat them. Do I tell them what to do, or do I stroke their ego, right? And then what you're doing is saying, hey, listen, just asking, let's say we go through the sale, we come to an agreement. So what are you going to do with the proceeds? Now, let them elaborate what they're going to do on the proceeds. Now, what this is doing is putting in them money in the bank, okay? And what you're finding out is what they want. It's extremely powerful knowing what another person wants to be able to deliver that to them when it comes down to the close, okay? When you're trying to close the transaction. So what I'm saying is this, is that in this particular scenario, you want to find out what they want. What are they going to do with the proceeds? So for an example, we talked to this couple and said, listen, man, if we could get the proceeds from this is why we need this amount. Because, if we had this amount, we have some debts we got to pay off, and we could pay off our house. And if we could pay off our house and pay off some of these debts, then we could live on my husband's retirement income. That's strong information to know, isn't it? Because now we know what their motivation is. So now we can try to craft an offer to be able to meet that need. And you might meet it now, or you might meet it later, but you know that going in, what their motivation, and it's different for everybody, believe me. So now you want to know that, because that's what they want. That's their mission. So your goal is to help them get it. Okay. And the best way you can, obviously, it's a win-win. So now here is another question, right? And you don't phrase this right after the first question. You say, listen, what happens? What would you do if the property didn't sell? So now they're bringing up in this high, this emotional high, like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be great? And you want to elaborate on that. Wow. So if you had this house, really, Tom, man, if you had this house paid off, right? You didn't have to worry about the rental properties anymore. You had this done. What would you do? Oh man, I would, I'd go on vacation. I'd go see my kids in Illinois. My grandkids in Illinois. I'd go do this. I'd go do that. Really? Wow. That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? So then when it's coming down to the close, you're saying, so listen, Mr. Seller, Tom, what's more important to you? Money, right? Or your family, your kids? So now you can now I understand that the money is going to get them that, but if there's a way to structure it that could make it work for both parties. And like I said, sometimes you're going to nail it on the head and you're going to be able to negotiate and get the deal down. And sometimes it's future money. Okay. So now what do you do when the property doesn't sell? And then you want to elaborate on that pain. So now you have pain and pleasure. People will do anything to avoid pain and to move toward pleasure, okay? They'll avoid pain and move toward pleasure, okay? So now, how do you structure that with the seller? If you know what they want, right, and you know what they don't want, when it comes to presenting an offer, you want to give them an A-B choice, okay? So we got two different options, Mr. Seller. Here's my contract, right? Because you're going to write a contract. You're going to give them a contract. Now you're going to take the conversation from a conversation to a serious event. So now here's my contract, Mr. Seller. And now we've got, two different things, because here's the deal. I have a limited capital, obviously, with my investment group to be able to purchase only one property at a time. So we could move forward to this, and we could get you this cash in the bank within 30 to 45 days. And then guess what? You could be on your way to, guess what? Illinois to see your grandkids. Or, you know what? You could still hang on to the property, and then you kind of dive into that fear, right? That fear. So it's an A-B choice. The A is what you want them to do, And the B is planted around what if they don't. So you say, listen, here's my offer. I have limited amount of cash. I have, obviously, to be able to make this happen, but I need to know as soon as humanly possible because I do have other appointments and other commitments. And like I said, I only can buy limited. And for, if I meet someone else that has another property, we happen to cut a deal, I'm going to have to take this off. I'm going to have to renege the contract and take it off the table. So now he's going to burden the hand. And what you're doing is you're giving him the option of fear that what happens if you don't sell, right? And remember, you elaborated on that. What happens if you do sell? And now you're going to have, So, Mr. Seller, Tom, so listen, you know what? And I know I know you want to achieve your goal and get this paid off and this, that, and the other. But what if you could pay off 80% of it? What if you get a majority of it taken care of, but you still could go out and visit your family, visit your kids in Illinois, visit your grandkids. You'd still go out and be able to accomplish that. You see that can happen, don't you, Mr. Seller? Yeah, I can see that. But, who knows where the market could be? Like I told you, if we take a snapshot 6 months from now, I don't know what's going to happen with this election, but the bottom line is it could be worse than it gets better. Are you willing to take that risk? And what's going to put that to either a decision point or a point where people are going to either land on A, which is your contract, or B. And if they land on B, that's okay, but you still want to make friends and you want to do it polite and you want to do it nice because then there's that future revenue in the future that you could work with them because when they are ready to sell, they're going to call you. Okay. Now, I want to tell you a quick story because here's the deal is that, and I have an announcement after this. When you're doing anything new, and you're pursuing something great, meaning whatever it may be, because I don't know, maybe you're doing something great at your job and you're making a difference, right? And you're making a difference in people's lives and you're making a difference in your, because people want to matter, right? You want to matter. And there's a drive obviously to make money because, want to make money and be freedom. But once the money game's out of the way, there's a drive, there's another drive, and the drive is to matter, to leave a legacy for your kids, your family, and to make a difference, right? And I don't know if it's just because when you get in your 40s, you really want to make a difference. I don't know what it is, because when I was 20, I wanted to get rich, right? I just cared about getting rich. Now, there's some people listening to this in their 20s, and they can relate. I just want to get rich. They want to drive down the street in the Porsche with a cabriolet with top down, wind through their hair, shades on, and have the girl drive up next to him, look at him and go, man, that dude's cute, right? And then you get kind of my age, you have kids, you have family, you have a house, in your 40s, I'm 42, and you're like, okay, I got the money game out of the way. I want to make a difference. And I think that's why I started the podcast, and I've done that, done now 2 live events. It's been phenomenal. And, because I love what I do. So there's a pursuit, right, to go out and pursue to be more, do more, and be more. Now, there are going to be struggles along the way. Things aren't always going to go your way. You're going to get contracts tied up and sellers are going to back out. You're going to get contracts tied up and there's going to be liens on the property. You're going to get contracts tied up. An escrow company is going to screw up for some reason. That's part of life. It's a test. How bad you want it. What are you willing to go through to get what you want in this life? Okay. What's going to happen? And a very successful person once told me, he said, the size of the man is determined by the size of the obstacle they can overcome. Now, one of the biggest men that accomplished more and overcame more obstacles than any one person I know is our 16th president. You know who that is? Abraham Lincoln. He was born, listen to this, 1809, right? February 12th, 1809. In 1816, Abraham Lincoln's family was forced out of their home and needed to work to support his family. So not more than a handful of years later, as a kid, he was forced out of his house, either by financial situations, something happened, the guy had to get out of his house and he had to go to work. In 1818, 2 years later, after he got evicted out of his house, his mom passed away. Okay? He's 8 years old. He's 8 years old. He got forced out of his house. He had to go to work to help support his family. Then his mom died. In 1828, 10 years later, now he's 18 years old, his sister dies. In 1831, a business venture failed. In 1832, he ran for state legislature and lost. In the same year, he also lost his job. He decided he wanted to go to law school, but couldn't get in. He got rejected. So he started a business and lost. He ran for state legislature. When you're running, look at all this election stuff going on. You got people try to support you, and guess what? You find out you suck and you lose, right? In 1833, he borrowed money from a friend to start a business. By the end of the year, he was bankrupt. So think about this. You have a great idea. You pursue forward to it. You get a friend involved, and then you go bankrupt. 1834, he ran for state legislature again, and he won. In 1835, the year was looking better as he was engaged to be married. Unfortunately, a year later, in 1835, his fiancée died, and he was grief-stricken. In 1836, this was the year that he had a total nervous breakdown and for 6 months was bedridden. So 2 years later, right, he thought everything was going good. I did it. I became state legislature. Now I don't suck, right? And I'm going to get married. I'm going to have a family. And his beautiful bride that he got married to dies, and he went into massive depression for 6 months and wouldn't get out of bed. In 1836, same year, he sought to become Speaker of the state legislature. So he got his butt out of bed, said, okay, I've got to do something with my life. I'm going to be a Speaker, state legislator. And he was defeated. In 1840, 4 years later, he sought to become elector, and he was defeated. In 1842, marries Mary Todd. They had 4 boys, but only one would live to maturity. Okay. Before my youngest daughter was born, which is Ava, she's 9 now, we miscarried triplet boys. My wife miscarried triplet boys. That was devastating, and I didn't even know them. Miscarried triplet boys, right? You're all excited. You're pregnant. Oh, the family's coming over. Everyone's celebrating. Oh, my gosh, we're great. Miscarried, right? Bad situation. This guy had 4 kids that were born. He knew them. They grew up. He gave them hugs. He gave them kisses. He loved them. He went to baseball games. And only one survived to maturity. That means 3 of his kids died. In 1843, he ran for Congress and lost. In 1846, he ran for Congress again. He won and moved to Washington. In 1848, he ran for re-election to Congress and lost. In 1849, he sought the job of land officer in his home state. So he went back, crawled home, and he didn't get the job. In 1850, his son Edward dies. In 1854, he ran for Senate of the United States and lost. He sought the vice presidential nomination in the National Convention. He got less than 100 votes. Now, guys, listen to this. He was born in 1809, right? It's 1856. So how old is he? Okay, let me do some quick math here. My new iPhone 5. Okay, so we've got 1856 minus 1809. He's 47. He's a couple of years older than me, and the guy's been through hell. You know what I mean? So he's 47 years old, and he only got 100 people. Now, wouldn't you question what the heck you're doing? Okay, if I did 97 episodes of podcast and only 100 people listened after 97 episodes, I'd go, maybe I suck, right? So that's what happened. So 1858, he ran for the Senate again, and he lost again. Now the guy's 50. 47. He's 49. 1860, Abraham Lincoln is elected president of the United States. 1862, his son Will dies at the age of 12. In 1865, on April 14th, Abraham Lincoln is assassinated. Wow. Is that just sucks, man? Why would someone kill the guy? That's just disturbing. Anyways, the bottom line is this. How bad do you want it? Now, I'm not saying you have to go through that. That was redonkulous. That was just that's sheer, absolute, 100% vision and will. But the bottom line is this, is that it's going to take effort. It's going to take work, right? And it's going to take that extra energy, that extra push that's going to push you beyond the obstacles, beyond the fear, and beyond not failure, right? Not failure, but what? Feedback. So you're going to get the feedback. It's not failure, it's feedback. So what's going to happen is that you're going to come to struggles. But if you want it bad enough, which I know you do, because some of you listening right now, you're going, you know what? I want to make it happen. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to do whatever it takes, and I'm going to take that passion, take that drive, take that vision, and never, ever, ever, ever give up. I don't care how bad it gets. You have what it takes to make it happen. You have the ability, you have the strength, you have the wherewithal, you have the knowledge, and you do have the confidence to make it happen. And I know that because I did it, and I'm a dork. The bottom line is this, is that for things to change, guess what? You got to pursue it, and pursue it with passion. Now, what's the big announcement? Well, the Flip to Freedom Academy has been open since November of 2010, and it's just robust. I mean, there's tons of information in the academy. I mean, we have coaching call of every coaching call we ever done can be downloaded and listened to. And I don't know how many, 50, 60, I don't know how many of them are in there. We do coaching calls every two weeks where we get on the phone and we talk about stuff like this. So all those are in there, all the contracts, all the spreadsheets, all the everything. 19 modules. We got the HUD training in there. We have a community of 5,900 comments of people talking back and forth. It's amazing. We have 2,118 members of the academy, and we were going to shut down at 2,000 as a charter membership was my initial goal, and we have obviously exceeded that for 2,118. But now, after really diving in and looking at the comments and surveying and trying to find out how to make it the best, because my mission is this, is that if you want to break into real estate and you're brand new, I want to be the number one source. If you want to learn wholesaling, I want to be the guy. I want to be the person that, if someone's getting involved and they're broke and they're just getting by, or they just want to get in real estate, but they don't want to buy rental properties, they don't want to do fix and flip, they don't want to buy commercial properties, they don't want to go down that path, but they want to get involved in real estate in a way where they can generate quick cash and use that quick cash to eventually build a cash flow portfolio, then I want to be the guy. I want to be the number one source in the world where people can learn about this. That's why I try to give everything I know to everything about everything I do, because, I want people to go out and have such massive success that it dwarfs anybody else, because that's my mission. Now, with the academy, we wanted to make it the best, and we're working on trying to make it the best, and listening to the comments and surveys of people, and working to make that happen. One of the things is having a CRM that is a part of the Flip to Freedom Academy, meaning that pre-built squeeze pages that are Google optimized. Okay, meaning that instead of having to build the squeeze pages, all you got to do is press a button and you can have it already SEO optimized, Google optimized for Google AdWords, and be able to create multiple different websites to where you can have extensions to it and you can run it correctly on Google. Have that all set up. You can generate offers immediately, have a complete database full of all your buyers and sellers. You can generate contracts. You can generate direct mail right out of there with all the templates preloaded, the templates that I use. So have a complete interface of all your buyers, all your sellers, and all your online marketing, all your offline marketing of everything that works and putting it together. So I've been really working on that. Well, what's happening is next Sunday, the 21st of, where are we in? October, I'm shutting down the Flip to Freedom Academy. Okay, to new members. Okay, if you're an old member and you're in the academy, then you are in, and obviously, I'm not shutting it down to you. You'll have access to it because you're a member and you've been a member for a while. But for new members, meaning we're going to shut it down. We're revamping the CRM system, and we're going to have that. The goal is by 2013 to have it up and live for all the existing members and for new members. But there comes a price tag with it, meaning that the future members, we're going to have to raise the price because of this CRM system. So if you want to lock in now to the price now, you'll have the ability to do that. Okay, you'll have the ability to lock in the price right now, and it's not expensive. It's like $97 a month, or it's 1 year for $597, or a lifetime for $597. But there's a ton of information there. So you can get in there if you want. Now, if you don't want to be a Flip to Freedom Academy member, you just want to listen to the podcast, all the information's there. You can listen to the book, and you can listen to the book now, and you can read the book. But the bottom line is there's a ton of content there for you. Don't have to be a part of the Flip to Freedom Academy. But if you want more, the information is definitely there because I lay out my entire $1 million business blueprint in a video format, so you can pretty much scrape exactly what I do and how I do it on a daily basis. So that's the bottom line. That will be closing next for a while. So we have everything done. When it opens up again, I don't know. Just when we can kind of put everything together. But the bottom line, the price will have to increase because of that. So now, that's the Flip to Freedom Academy, and that will be closing on the 21st. So if you want more from me, go to flip2freedom.com, flip2freedom.com, and you can download my book. Start there. Start listening to the podcast, start reading the book, and that will give you a ton of information to decide what you want to do about moving on the future. All I know is this, is that right now is the best time in our lives to get started in real estate, because we are going into the next bull market of real estate. And I am super excited to be positioned in this way to where you guys can learn this information, go out and get massive success stories, and we can go out and change not only your world, right? But then you can in turn change other people's worlds. Meaning, guess what? If you learn this information and you go out and you get to spend more time with your family and more time with your kids and be able to make more money and do more things and contribute more, then you can take this knowledge and teach and train someone else to go out and do it, where they can turn around and change their world. It's a ripple effect. That's what we're creating. So go to flip2freedomacademy.com, download my free book, and if you decide to join the Flip to Freedom Academy by the 21st, can't wait to see you on the inside. Get us on the coaching calls, and I will see you guys next week. Take care, and God bless.